Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we're going to be reviewing Fumes on Steam. So let's get right into it. Yes, Fumes is finally available to the general public, and it's not just a demo anymore. It is in early access as of today. You can go check it out on the Steam store. I'll have a link to it in the description below. Yes, I was given a review code early to test out this game live on stream. If you want to go see my initial reactions to the game live, check out my VOD in the description below as well. And even though I did get this game sent to me for free from the developers, I did not get told that I have to stay away from saying certain things, and I was not paid for this video. So I'm going to be brutally honest in my thoughts and opinions of this game so far. I'm going to separate this review from the good and then the what can be improved upon section, because you have to keep in mind this is an early access title. It's not a full release quite yet. It is $14 USD at the moment on the Steam store, so I think the price for what you get is actually pretty fair. Fumes essentially is an open world car combat game set in a post-apocalyptic world. There isn't much of a story to be had here other than just some quips that pop up on screen. There's no voice acting or cutscenes really of the like, and that's okay. The game doesn't really need it. The main focus of Fumes essentially is its fast and chaotic gameplay. It's got a really addictive gameplay loop to it that I just absolutely adore. I'm just happy to see car combat make a return in general in 2025, and games like Fumes really do add a new life to it. Right at the beginning, you are dropped into this desert oasis and not really sure what to do, but you are open to drive around aimlessly doing whatever you want while you're shooting at random vehicles. You're not told as to why you're here, who you are, or why these vehicles are attacking you, but you know what? It really doesn't matter because it's a goddamn good time just blowing these people away. The graphics are straight up beautiful. There's a ton of built-in filters in the game, which is really fun to mess around with to really have it just fit your own style. They recommend right off the bat to put on this PS1 kind of pixelated-esque visuals, kind of like we saw in Valheim a couple years back, and it does look and fit the style of the game and its aspects. However, I personally like having it just set up as clean, mainly so I can show off the beautiful lighting effects used in the Unity engine. The physics are also really nice and bouncy, kind of like we got in those old school Rallycross games, and I'm really going to be saying this a lot in this video, but it really does just fit the overall vibes of the game. One really neat aspect is the open world is actually procedurally generated, so all the environments that you see will change from playthrough to playthrough, which I find very interesting. And speaking of that, there are different landscapes to traverse throughout the game, including the desert, winter, forest, abandoned cities, etc. There's a lot of places to find as you roam around these Badlands. Thankfully, there are no loading screens as you traverse through the game, but there is no fast travel. So if you're kind of far away from an objective, you are going to have to just drive there. It's a little bit of a bummer, but thankfully most objectives and stuff like that aren't too far away from each other. So there wasn't really a time where I felt I was traveling without doing much at all for a long period of time. And thankfully they make it super easy to navigate throughout the world with the built-in compass at the top of the display, and you get a lot of objectives to do throughout the game between each boss fight. They also have a really cool old school heavy metal original soundtrack that just fits the vibes perfectly as everything else. I love the soundtrack in this game, but I do wish there was a couple more tracks where they didn't repeat over each other over and over again. Once you get to your home base vehicle, I like to call it, you get a ton of customizable options at your disposal. You have different car types that you unlock through different boss battles. You can do different guns as well as placing them in different areas on the vehicles. There's different wheel types, body parts, and paint jobs. And these are all fully customizable to your liking. You can place them where you want, especially when it comes to the paint jobs. I was actually kind of blown away at how much you can actually edit the vehicle. The only downside is you cannot remove the rust filter on every car. I understand it adds the aesthetic of the game and being post-apocalyptic. However, I would like the option down the road to just remove that if I want to make it look pretty and pristine. The one thing I really like about the gun configurations in this game is it does add an extra level of strategy before the next fight. So depending on which vehicle you choose, you get different amounts of options for how many weapons you can place on your car at once. Some cars only allow one weapon, while others allow up to 4, which is absolutely insane. But there's ups and downs to each vehicle, so some are faster and more fluid than others, but they have less available options for weapons. Whereas the more slower, tankier vehicles maybe have worse handling and they're a lot slower, but they have more armor and again, more options for weapons, which is nice. Sometimes you'll go into a battle thinking you have the perfect setup with the perfect weapons and you'll get absolutely obliterated. Going back to the customization window and you realize, oh wait, I could put this weapon in this spot and this weapon here, and that's going to do double damage if the vehicle's in front of me or behind me and vice versa. It's really cool how they set this up to where different weapons can do more damage from behind versus in front, or maybe on the left side of your car or the right side of your car. And it's realistic in a way where if you place it, let's say a weapon on the right side of the vehicle, it's not going to be able to aim at somebody to the left of your car because your car is blocking the gun. I also really love the interactive and unique looking UI. I remember when I played the original demo of Fumes last year, the UI was pretty plain Jane, and they have really outdone themselves here. It rattles and shakes as you're driving around the Badlands. I love that in the pause menu you can actually manipulate the wires hanging from the ceiling. There's just a lot of cool and added special little details with the UI in this game to add more personality to it. There's also random events that can occur while you're driving through the wastelands when you're not even in a mission, which is kind of cool. For instance, there's these little packages that you can grab throughout the game or you can unlock through boss fights, and you have to deliver them to specific outposts around the world. And while you're at it, you have to fight off these pirates that come and try to steal your loot. It's kind of a fun little cat and mouse game that does add a little bit more life and variety to the environment. However, I will admit it did get kind of annoying sometimes where you would destroy a group of pirates and then within 30 seconds another group would appear, making your mission of trying to deliver the packages that much more frustrating. There's also a lot of attention to detail, such as the ground deformation when you're in the grasslands. You can turn while sitting in place with the tank tread wheels. Everything jiggles and bounces around realistically with the physics engine. There's so many little details I love in this game that just add more to the life of it. And it really goes to show that these 4 developers really put their heart and soul into this game. And lastly, I really love the weather effects in this game with the heavy storms, with the lightning and the thunder, and then you do have the day and night cycles, which add another variety to the world and make it feel more alive. The main gameplay of Fumes really is just driving around aimlessly in this open wasteland while aiming around your vehicle with the mouse to aim at your enemy. Every weapon in Fumes thankfully has unlimited weapons. We were talking about this on my live stream on what would be better for this type of game. Should they have pickups around the map to get ammo for your guns or have it unlimited? I think going unlimited actually was the smarter choice, being that this isn't an open world game. If it was a situation where there was an open world kind of menu system where you could drive from one mission to the next, but once you got into a mission, you're in its own area, that would be different because then once you're in a mission, then they could place little item boxes around the map or whatever to gain ammunition for said mission. However, every mission takes place in the world you're traversing, so there really wouldn't have been a way for them to include some type of ammo cost to the gameplay. So I understand why they went with the infinite ammo situation. However, I do admit that having unlimited ammo makes the game a little bit too easy when going against regular enemies, because all you really got to do is aim and click. There's no actual skill gap there is to learn, or like any special moves or anything that you need to learn in order to get better at the combat. It's really just how good is your aim. And speaking of that, we can probably move into my section of what I think can be improved with the game, starting out with the controller support. So yes, the aiming essentially is just looking around your vehicle at all times, and it is definitely optimized to run with keyboard and mouse. So that is right now the optimal way to play the game. Yes, this is a PC only game, so I understand why they made it this way, but I do feel they need to implement some type of better controller support for people who want to play on the go, such as on a Steam Deck, or who just want to plug in their controller to a PC. Because even though, yes, you can use a controller with the game, it just doesn't feel good at all with an analog. It's very difficult to aim properly, and you can just tell it was not optimized for it. Hopefully down the line with future updates, they will be able to fix this. But for right now, just go into it knowing you're going to have to be forced to use a mouse and keyboard. The customization is really nice, like I said before. However, the UI itself is pretty confusing for new players. It took me a solid 15 minutes to finally figure out how the upgrade system worked when I was messing around with the different weapons on my vehicle. I don't know if they could just add maybe a little tutorial window or a video or something when you first get in there to make it make more sense, but it just at the moment is pretty confusing, and I could see it turning off a lot of players. The performance dips pretty dramatically during boss fights. It's kind of a bummer because the game itself runs really well even on a Steam Deck at 60 FPS for the most part, but then as soon as a boss fight happens, for some reason it dips down to 30 and sometimes even less frames per second, and I'm running a pretty good PC with a 4090 GPU, so I don't think these kind of dips should be happening in any way, shape, or form. But that's all stuff that definitely could be fixed in a future patch. In terms of the objective types in the game currently, I do think they could add a few more to get more variety with the gameplay. Currently, there's just package delivery missions, race events, death matches, and then of course the major boss fights. The package delivery missions are a fun and nice addition to the game. However, it does feel like Death Stranding in a way though, where you have to pay attention to your strap strength before bringing packages on the mission, because if you start going at too steep of an incline, those straps will break and your package will tumble all the way down the hill and thus can get stolen by those pirates. Again, it's kind of a cool strategy and a different type of mission structure that I'm not totally opposed to. But it is frustrating for newer players because at the beginning of the game, the straps are so weak that you can barely go up any inclines. So you're kind of forced to wait and come back to these missions later on once you have those straps unlocked. The race events, I understand, are a new objective type and they wanted to try to do something a little bit different to change up the gameplay. However, the lack of car combat and the confusing checkpoint placements make the race events a slog. I did not enjoy these one bit. These car combat games are just not meant to be racing games. I understand you're in vehicles the entire time, and when you think of cars, you think of racing. But yeah, it just does not fit the vibes of the game at all. And I just feel like they'd be better off completely removing them or just allowing us to do car combat in the race. Give us the option. Do you want to finish the race or kill everybody in the competition? Either way should allow you a win. Another big issue with the delivery missions is that they're just not rewarding once you finish them. Yes, you do unlock different parts for your vehicle, which is nice for upgrades, but the overall objective is to get up to 25 different packages delivered to these different outposts. And these outposts are different environmental hazards that have been captured for research. And you think that, oh, well, if I get all of these 25 packages for this research, maybe that's going to unlock a new mega weapon or something like that. But no, in reality, all it does is it makes you immune to the wild environmental hazards, such as the tornadoes or the black holes or whatever you want to call them. And yes, I guess it is helpful in fights when you're running towards a tornado. You don't have to worry about being sucked up and thrown away. However, this is just kind of one of those things where it feels like a missed opportunity. And speaking of those environmental hazards, I would have loved to see more of those, and there probably will be in the future. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like there's enough that we see throughout the game to where it warrants being this entirely new objective type. And speaking of that, the landscape itself is just overall pretty barren. There is some street lights and jumps and stuff like that here and there, but it just really feels empty in a lot of ways. I don't really know how they could fix this, however, because if you think about it, if you have too many things out in the open or too many objects in front of you, you're gonna run into them more often than not because of the way the aiming works. Most of the time, you're looking behind you or to the left of you or to the right of you while you're shooting enemies, so you're not necessarily watching where you're driving towards, and that could lead to a lot of frustration for most players if you're constantly running into objects. So it's kind of a give or take. For the most part, I think they went the right route of making it more barren so you don't run into places and objects and stuff and getting frustrated, but there definitely is a part of me that wishes there was more to look at. And kind of leading more into my nitpicks or just things I would love to see in the future, I would really love to see special attacks per vehicle. Like I said, there's different types of cars you can choose from and each car has their own attributes, but it would have been really cool to also see maybe a special attack per vehicle type. For instance, maybe the small kind of weaker cars would have a stronger special attack, and then those bigger, more bulky vehicles that already have more weapons on them would have more of a defensive or maybe a weaker type of special attack. Like, just imagine, for instance, using the smallest vehicle in the game and the special weapon is shooting out a tornado at somebody. That would just be insanely cool. And lastly, I would just love to see some type of multiplayer in the future. Maybe online death matches could work properly in this open barren landscape, or maybe just have co-op with friends, like up to 4 players. This is a massive level, a massive procedurally generated map that you easily could drop in 4 players and roam around the Badlands together, shooting up random people. I think this is a cool idea. I don't think it's something on their mind at the moment, and I would probably agree. I would love them to fix the single player aspect of the game first, maybe add a proper storyline. Who knows, maybe even add voice acting and cutscenes down the line. That'd be really sick. But for what it is, for what Fumes is right now, it is a very fun, adrenaline-fueled car combat game that I think everybody should give a try. Even if you're not a fan of car combat, this is definitely a unique approach to the genre, and I just can't wait to see the future of this game. So yeah, Fumes is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time with it. There is some issues, of course, at the moment that could have improvements, but all in all, 4 developers put this game together, and you can tell they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, and a lot of love. And yeah, it truly shines. Fumes is a very fun time, and I really hope you check it out. Again, I'll have a link to the Steam page in the description below. Maybe one day this could even come to consoles. I think it would do really well on PS5 and on the Xbox Game Pass. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, share, support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out, everyone.